Greetings and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Daily Medicine Transmission for April 5th, 2022. Our sun is still in Aries, but the moon is now in Gemini. Venus moves into Pisces today. Mars and Saturn just came off their conjunction, and Mars is immediately going to have a square angle with the moon's nodes. It's going to T-square the nodes, so we'll get into all of that astrology. And even though the moon is in Gemini today, we actually are kind of in this lull. And what better way to be able to feel into the resistance, the dichotomy, the polarity, the duality that Gemini represents than to have just a moment to let that process spin in whatever direction it needs to, right? Gemini is mutable air. And what does that mean? That means there's no fixed or even momentum. It is just the space of ideas. And in Gemini, we accept that there will always be a counterpart to anything you can conceive of, any idea, any thought, any concept, any, spark of consciousness and what that actually represents. There will be its opposition, because the thing about light and shadow is that it requires an interaction with the physical world, matter, right? What casts the shadow? Light shining on matter. And so this is actually the first realization of consciousness when we as humans come into that third house or Gemini and coming out of the realm of communion with just the matter, right? Where there is natural, instinctual, intrinsic knowing and cohesion. And it's the human experience that burst up through the soil, much like the seedling coming out of the seed to move towards the light. But there will be an inevitable casting of a shadow, even that tiny little sprout that comes up, matter interacting with light. So this is the nature of duality, of being a spiritual being coming into material form and having consciousness, having access to knowledge, to a nervous system that not only is allowing us to survive in this environment, but allows us to gain knowledge, to evolve, to learn, right? To enhance our own sense of knowing. So lots of interesting themes with Gemini, and we're kind of all working them out right now with the moon in Gemini and having this personalized experience. And when we saw the ministry yesterday, when we did the Starseed ministry yesterday, we did the stream and I shared the reading, and there is seemingly some doubt or a sense of, stasis in some ways about, ideas, concepts, where we're going, where our knowledge is going. What do we know about the direction we are headed? We don't. And so during this time today, there aren't a ton really at all transits with the moon, like major transits. And so we get to kind of have this time to let this, vacillation or this oscillation within ourselves just kind of play out and just feel into it. Now, Venus comes into Pisces today. Saturn and Mars, you can see in this photo actually, that is from the Space Weather Gallery. So this is linked in the description box below if you want to look at these things. This is somebody's photography. So you see Saturn and Mars just had that conjunction, that big old brick wall from yesterday. So it's still active, but we're on the other side of it now. And it's reached its pinnacle, and now the influence is starting to wane, right? But it's still very much there. But right away today, Mars is in a T-square with the nodes of the moon. So if you don't know what that is, I will be explaining it as I show you in the chart. But the nodes of the moon are the karmic journey that we're all having at a soul level. And we're talking about the Pleiades, again, and Orion. So that square is going to be very active as well today. So we'll get into that. But Venus has moved into Pisces, will be moving into Pisces today. Isn't quite there yet as of this recording. But this is really I think this is a really favorable, beautiful, there's a lot of possibility and potential here to embody a lot of the Pisces themes of compassion, forgiveness, unconditional love, a sense of real heart opening and being aware of other people's suffering. This is the thing about the Pisces realm, is that if you have strong Pisces, you are a Pisces, then there is such a strong capacity to really feel, to be an empath, like to be an actual empath, to feel into the feels of who is around you and society as a whole and spiritually. But it takes real mastery and a sense of knowing yourself so that you can use this as an asset rather than to fall into more martyrdom patterns or surrender and sacrifice that is actually not for your greatest good at all. And this is where delusion and illusion factor into the Pisces realm too. So, but Venus here is allowing us to embody these themes in imagination and dreaminess and a sense of real spiritual transcendence into our everyday feeling, right? So Venus is attractive. Venus is magnetic. Venus represents the medium of our growth or the living soil. So she represents relationships and projects and harmony and beauty and balance, but in a very material way. It's in her own feels and her sensitivity that she can, change her magnetic field to resonate with what she wants, right? She pulls it towards her. So not only is this going to allow a much more embodied connection to the themes of, universal love, agape, right? The Christ nature and avatar. And remember, this is where our last new moon was. Now we're in Aries time. So now it's the potential for it to grow is very much active, but this is going to be really nice, and an ability to bring a transcendence, that cosmic consciousness into the body and embodiment, and allow us to actually manifest from this place. In Aquarius, it's been a lot of opportunity to tap in and embody the cosmic consciousness, the human consciousness as a collective, as the resonance of all of our voices together as one, right? And it's interesting to me, and if I even talk about these things, I don't even know if, I'm sure that there is a bot that tracks these words, but it's interesting when we think about the phrase, where we go one, we go all, and how that's related to Q being 17, the star card, Aquarius. This was all very intentional, but the idea here down to that level of where we go one, we go all is not, just a phrase to get people, connected. It's the idea that no more is there the ability to, circumvent or bypass or, be able to give yourself over, right? That was Pisces. And there are needs for gurus, and spiritual prophets and things of that nature, teachers, real spiritual teachers, and people who have direct connection to source that are necessary, and were necessary. Aquarius is now, all of our voices have a resonance, and there's no getting, where we go one, we go all, means that for every one person that is dissonant in this larger chorus of individual sovereign voices, we all are still dissonant, if that makes sense, right? It kind of puts into perspective all of the really positive and ideal aspects of Aquarius, and why this time would, decades ago, begin to be infiltrated and hijacked. And also, in order to support it and keep people from falling into more of the transhumanist AI agenda that is a very huge part of the Age of Aquarius too, or the Great Reset, right? In order to manipulate or to manage the sound of this. But it doesn't matter, because where we go one, we go all, for every dissonant voice. This is what allows for us to be truly committed to a process of real healing at a karmic level, at a collective level, and to address the issues of living outside of alignment with your God, with God and yourself. And that's truly what sin really means, is living out of that alignment with God and natural law. And everybody has their different way of interpreting this, but we all feel it. And this is part of the Pleiadian revival, is to not dismiss how important our connection to all other aspects of the medium of growth here on earth is part of this journey. So but now she's moving into Pisces, so it's going to be way more in the feels. Now, Venus in Pisces is like that Princess of Cups, right? She's on an island of her own, and it's so it's got this innocence and a sense of optimism in some ways, but really the boundaries between reality and dream start to really soften with Venus and Pisces. And so you just have to be aware of that and be aware of all of the potential pitfalls and potential for just really embodying something beautiful and transcendent. And there's a lot of Pisces energy. Jupiter and Neptune are going to be conjunct very soon in Pisces. This is huge. And if you are getting the seasonal forecast from me, and if you've had the pleasure of listening to your new moon astrology forecast, either the one that actually was posted to the public platforms, which was for Aries, or through your subscription, we talked about this Jupiter and Neptune conjunction a lot, and I'm sure many astrologers are talking about it, and it's coming very soon. And a real expansion on the meaning of finding and fulfilling your purpose in the greater whole. And Venus is just going to make it a lot easier to do this in your relationships, in when it comes to what you actually value and your own field, right? Venus rules the magnetics of our own field. So and Mercury, I feel like, rules the digital signal, right? The actual electrical signal that responds to the magnetic field and has a relationship. So these are the types of things we talk about on the fellowship. All right, so let's look at some space weather real quick as part of this. Oops, that is not what I wanted to show you. Man, you can tell it takes a while to get into the groove of recording. So the first thing I wanted to show is the Schumann Resonance. This is actually here. Let me do this, guys. Sorry about that. The one that I usually use from disclosurenews.it had not updated to be to this present moment. So if you go to Tomsk University in Russia, where everybody's getting their data for the Schumann already, is from these instruments and measuring devices, you can see that this was yesterday, right? There was an amplification. It coincided with, a slightly more robust solar flare, but not scary by any stretch. I think it was still a C class, but you can see that the Schumann, in terms of its amplitude and its activity, is starting to mellow, just like we talked about earlier. It's just well, actually, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, because I've done so many takes on this video that I'm not sure if I said it on this one or not. So let's just confirm for ourselves, at least, that there isn't as much geomagnetic disturbance right now, right? We're in this lull. And again, this is a good reason why a moon in Gemini right now is just giving us a moment to just let the thoughts, and our feelings bounce back and forth, allow the, the resistance of the Gemini space of our consciousness. How do we learn? Well, we have to be, it's not just rote repetition or just being like watching Hypnotoad and having it just beam right in. We want to actually have challenges to our knowledge base so that we learn and that we take in more and we observe and we rationalize. This is also part of the Gemini third house. So it's good that the solar activity right this moment is finding some stability. Now it's going to change in the next 2 days. We are anticipating CME impact, which means all of this will start to get more up leveled, right? I don't know if the Schumann will necessarily respond. So far, it has been when we get solar weather from CMEs or anything like that. So just again, like we're just going to look. Oh, I want to show you this real quick. Here is the Pleiadian star cluster, 444 light years away, by the way, in the California Nebula. This is just, eye candy, and the Pleiades star cluster, since we are going to be talking about the Pleiades in this transmission today. So, but look here, space weather news. We can see that, the KP index, right, the geomagnetic, if it's calm, if it's disturbed, right, is pretty mellow right now. It's pretty stable, right? It's not as lowest, which we know is when cosmic rays really have an impact. You can even see the solar wind speed has been decreasing. It's kind of going, buffering a little bit here, but even the temperature is starting to even out and go down. And you can see that there are geomagnetic disturbances that are just now being measured again, because when these here are flipping back and forth, or there's more variety up here, you can see that the impact is getting stronger. So the CMEs are on their way. Perhaps they will land earlier than predicted, which would be, even by the end of today into tomorrow. But with the moon in Gemini, especially tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of activity between the moon and every other planet in our zodiac, especially Chiron and the sun and Mercury and Aries. So we'll look at that. I just wanted to show you things are mellow for the moment, and then just to kind of show here too that we're geomagnetic storm watch. It's not going to be anything scary. They also are putting data together that's saying that this year's solar cycle is, the sunspot counts are exceeding predictions now for the last 18 months, which means that there are more solar flares per time period, and sunspots in particular now than the average in terms of solar maximum. So even the sun is getting even more active in the normal active solar maximum. And this has a lot to do most likely with our position in the solar system itself, or in the galaxy, our solar system in the galaxy, moving through and being impacted by our own magnetic the galaxy's magnetic shift and rippling as well, and the micronova that are part of that they're starting now to really look at. Like, stars don't just nova once, they actually are shown to have micronovae as a result of electromagnetics in the galaxy. So it's exciting, and it's really challenging the paradigm right now in astrophysics just in general. So the one thing I wanted to show you too is just to familiarize ourselves right here. See, K index, it's quiet. There are no large equatorial coronal hole streams. That's what they're saying right now. But that doesn't mean there aren't coronal holes that are going to move into view today in terms of the rotation of the sun. So that's the space weather right now. It's pretty mellow for the moment. That could change by the end of today, but we have this opportunity to really kind of sink in to a lot deeper of a space, I feel like, and allow reconsideration, allow the opposition within ourselves and our own feelings to kind of, be able to move back and forth very seamlessly, so that we can, kind of get a handle of ourselves and where we are. That was a really intense, very intense. There we go. That was a very intense square. Or not square. I keep wanting to call it a square. The conjunction with Mars and Saturn. It's very intense, and it can lead people to doing some interesting things. Now, people are definitely tracking Saturn and Aquarius when it comes to things like, Aquarius for sure in terms of things like social media. That is like a very Aquarian type of system, is social media and digital connections like that. All of that type of stuff, and all of the technology that goes along with it. This is all very Aquarian. And so Saturn there has been, usually as the ruler of Capricorn, and also the co-ruler of Saturn, has been in this position, and people are kind of tracking a lot of different things when it comes to Aquarius, not the least of which is like the crypto market and the concept of digital currency. I think that's something that Saturn and Aquarius definitely is tracking in some ways. But I also would think that, control and authority over the digital digital space and the way that we digitally connect as humans on this planet is also part of it. And you see what happened with Twitter when Mars and Saturn came into a conjunction, right? That was a hurdle or a wall that somebody busted through and managed to use their output, right, and their sense of fighting and the sense of acting in their own self-interest as a instinctual thing, right, as a potential that can grow, and seeing the limitations that needed to be pushed past and seeing those as a challenge, right? So it's interesting what happened with Twitter and with Elon Musk, because there is a lot of Aquarian energy that is around him. We should look at his chart someday, huh? I am very curious. That has given me more insight onto people and their possible motivations than any other content, other than tracking their behavior, the decisions that they're making, those types of things, right? Actual facts and data. So, but the astrology charts, wow. Like I said, I've gained a lot of insight. So like I said, the moon is in Gemini. It's not really going to be having major aspects today with anything. I think the biggest moon aspect today, there's hardly any, actually. It might be an asteroid. It looks like there'll be a trine to asteroid Vesta. So we have Venus now coming into Pisces. We have Mars barely coming off of its conjunction with Saturn and immediately coming into a square with the nodes of the moon, being a T-square. And we have Mercury meeting Pallas Athena. And it's in a very specific degree that is going to be relevant in just a matter of days, which is on the 9th when we have our first quarter moon. And if you had access to your new moon forecast, then you know that this time frame is going to be a first real challenge to the intentions set with the new moon, and especially with Chiron involved. There is a lot of ideal images of balance and cosmic order that we want to really grow in accordance with, and it will come along with the baggage of the old woundings that Chiron, the wounded healer, and what that represents. It's inevitable. It's inevitable that we face these things while at the same time aligning our own growth and development right now with an ideal image of what it means to be in attunement to any nature and to life and to a sense of sacredness to that. So this conjunction with Mercury in Aries with Pallas Athena today at that same degree is it's going to be where the sun is at the first quarter moon. There's always crisis points, always, that we are feeling our first crisis with that intention. And it's always, what are we going to do? So there's going to be some great insight about what to do, and many of you have already had the opportunity to get some get ahead of the game with that, because there's some really incredible transits that have to do with Jupiter and Neptune, in terms of, this is what I do. And it's going to be way, way in the feels. It's going to require that we tap into the power of the South Node, right? The momentum of the dragon's tail to see where we've been. It's going to be good, but as we move closer to the weekend, it's going to really ramp back up again. So right now, in this moment, allowing these major shifts, like I said, Mars squaring the nodes, Venus coming into Pisces, and Mercury meeting Pallas Athena. So let's talk about that. That seems to be coming up in personal readings too, and the fact that it's the first quarter square of the sun moon, it seems really important to identify. So the Sabian symbol for 20 degrees of Aries is a young girl feeding the birds in the winter, right? Out feeding. Maybe you put bird seed in the bird feeder during the winter, right? It's this sense here that there is, and remember that the second decan, the second 10 degrees of Aries is represented by the 3 of Wands, right? The sun in Aries, virtue, right? And this is a sense that through your compassion, your virtuous nature as an individual life, and a sense of starting to become identified with the world around you and how that promotes your own growth, there's a sense here that you overcome crisis through your compassion. You are as that child that is giving to those who need, right? Through your own potency and through your own life force, okay? And it's not to say that the square here with the moon will be in Cancer, because it'll be a challenge to what is holding us emotionally, and it has still to do with us and how we feel, especially how we feel. The moon in Cancer, do we feel protected? Do we feel secure? This is going to be one of those moments where we're like, oh, well, what do I do? And it's already building with the moon in Gemini as we feel into, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? Do I feel this way? Do I feel that way? If I feel this way, what does this bring up, right? It's such a and the moon is waxing, it's getting brighter. And so again, the sleep stuff is coming back around just in general with the moon in Gemini, because we're processing so much in our subconscious, this dialectic that is part of being a conscious human being. So there's a strategy, Pallas Athena, right? She's the goddess of wisdom and strategy. There's a strategy here with and Mercury in terms of our own mental capacity, our own conception, right? Mercury, and especially the creative ideas that are really coming to us, the sparks of potency and desire that we are accessing with our own mind and our information, our speech, right? Our just our mental functioning in general is also very much activated with this cardinal fire of Aries. And so to meet Pallas Athena today as well, there's a strategy here when it comes to how that we overcome any type of crisis in the life that we are starting to identify ourselves with, right? And this can mean all number of things, because the opposite of Aries is Libra. So it's not even about what it is so much as you have identified your role within the social order, and it is the balance of that is represented by Libra. So as an Aries person in particular, this is why Aries people, this whole lunar cycle is really important to the nature of who you are, because you in fact are experiencing in the very nature of yourself this reestablishment in some ways of our subjective sacred self and the potential of who we each can be. It's all encapsulated in this fresh new perspective. Now, Aries is the lamb. It's also the ram, because the lamb grows up to be a ram. So again, it is more of the lamb in terms of its fresh, it's new, it's just born. It is a sense of all the potential in front of you. So it's important that we find the strategy there and be able to mentally connect with a strategy or a wisdom. And remember, strategy in war, and not spiritual wisdom in terms of war. Now, we are talking about Gemini, right? Gemini is the idea that there is inherent, polarity in part of the human experience of consciousness. So the war is within ourselves right now, and perhaps it is a good strategy to identify the places with the virtue within ourselves, right? And to maybe apply that to the duality that we are grappling with within ourselves. I really do feel like this is a moment. Surely it's going to be expressed outwardly as well in some way, shape, or form. But right now, it appears that we could really utilize this moment to apply that virtue and that sense of really wanting to overcome something through what we can offer of ourselves. Like there's something very important that Mercury as the Gemini ruler will be able to, as we are grappling with what is, how we feel, basically, and the back and forth of how we feel, which is part of every month that we come here. There is, without that dialectic, there would never be the opportunity for us to actually share this part of ourselves, to be compassionate. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow. We've talked about Hannah Arendt and her book on totalitarianism, and that's exactly one of the first things that she brings up. Without this, without the struggle, right? We would never know the depths of the darkness and the evil. And so there's something to be grateful for, as difficult as that is. And I think that, I think Mercury and Pallas Athena are exactly the strategic coming together for us to see that we get an opportunity, right? And again, this whole thing about lost opportunities is a big theme of this month. So I think that we're starting to address this aspect within ourselves right now. It's subtle, it's subconscious, it may not be very obvious, but what is obvious, I feel like, is our ability to tap into our own compassion as something that we can give of ourselves and really overcome things through it. So Venus, of course, is making all the feels, even in our own bodies, in our senses, that much more fluid as well, that much more watery and dreamy. I think there's a real beautiful opportunity in the next, coming weeks, especially, to have serious, very strong cosmic experiences of expansion and really coming together in some way. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to unfold, but today, allow yourself the space to just have the back and forth, to allow your feelings to, ride the seesaw and find your fulcrum in the middle, and allow that resistance to be the opportunity to practice your own compassion. And I think that's going to go a long, long way. So, my friends, I'm going to leave it there for today's Daily Medicine transmission. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Everything you need is in the description box below. I'm going to link the Starseed Ministry intro video in the description box. It'll also be linked at the end of this video. And I am going to see you tomorrow for the Daily Medicine transmission on the 6th, which is Wednesday. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. I love you guys. Peace out.